shut up, you listen to my monkey mouth. There's a companion when you got pun on the Kanoa route. Hopped in a portal and got in a fight, Elias knocked him out. Bow, Naruto fighting style. Bow, UFC he tapped out. Bow, we win, we get crowned. Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.
What is up, Armchair Army? Welcome back to another iteration of Armchair Mixed Martial Arts. This is Joshua, as always, and on this episode we're going to be previewing UFC 278 as well as reviewing the UFC Fight Night that was in San Diego. And just some quick what's going on in my world. We just recently got our audio fixed up, so I'm certain if you're listening to this one, it's going to be significantly better than the last one. We've been doing tons of podcasts over here in the Monkey Mouth studio. We actually just got through recording a Shut Up You'll Listen and Ones Who Woke Up podcast. Both were featuring Adam the Brown Recluse Bowles, who's a wonderful stand-up comedian who's currently operating out of Austin, Texas. He's also show running, putting on some shows at the Alamo Draft House over on Mueller every 2 weeks, every Friday. So go check him out, follow him, give him some love on social media. I really appreciated having him in the studio. Outside of that, on the personal side of things, my 2.5-year-old kiddo is a tyrant. My dog's a tyrant. And so I'm just always kind of swimming in the deep end, trying to keep up with them too, single dad life and doing my podcasting and running my other businesses. But I'm hanging in there, man, and I feel like the Monkey Mouth studio is really starting to catch its stride, especially since there was a period of time where we had a bunch of tech difficulties, and then there were some audio difficulties, and I feel like we've got it all hashed out now. So, let me know in the comments how you feel about the audio and video quality that we have going on right now. But to dive right off into the meat and potatoes of the UFC Fight Night San Diego card. It was Chito Vera versus Dominic Cruz, and Chito Vera threw a head kick heard round the world. He managed to capture lightning in a bottle again, right? He did him a similar way to how he did Frankie Edgar, right? Big head kick knockout. What it comes down to is Dominic Cruz zigged when he should have zagged. And he dipped right into a head kick, and he landed flat on his face. Chito swarmed him, hit him with several shots, and that was that. And it was a really good stoppage. I don't think that he's going to be getting on to the referee for giving him an early stoppage or anything this time. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was Chito's night. He got a 4th round knockout. It was exceptional. He's been on a tear. He's been in the UFC for a really long time, and his record's a little salty, but a lot of that was him gathering up, him getting experience under his belt in the UFC at a young age. Dominic Cruz, he's only got 4 losses, right? The guy is a beast. And I just feel like the game has kind of caught up to him, right? He was like the innovator of that, like, drastic head movement, wild footwork, zigzagging in and out type of style that he has, and now there's guys like that in every gym, right? And they might not be as good at it as Dominic Cruz, but the fact is that he managed to influence the sport as a whole, and now you see that type of footwork and headwork happening in gyms all across the United States, and in the octagon all the time. And so it isn't as like novel and new and like impossible to wrap your head around as an opponent when you're fighting Dominic Cruz, because you have guys who can give you that look these days. And Dominic Cruz is getting a little old. I was talking with my buddies during the fight, and definitely seemed like after the first round he was getting a little slower. After the second round, he was getting a little slower. It just seemed like he was getting slower after every round, right? And Chito just wasn't going anywhere. He knocked him down in every round, I believe, and then managed to knock him out in the 4th round. And so, Dominic Cruz is a legend. I really, really like him in the booth. He's super smart. He knows exactly what's happening in there. He provides amazing technical analysis. And so I'm always looking forward to seeing him in the booth. and he's also a fantastic fighter. I mean, again, he's only got 4 losses. I think his last 2. I mean, let's see. I think his last couple losses were to. Yeah, they were like champions. Like these are guys who there's no shame in having losses when you're Dominic Cruz, and you only have 4 losses in your entire career. So I don't believe Dominic Cruz is going anywhere. I believe he's going to keep right on fighting, and he's going to keep having awesome performances. But it's Cheeto Vera's time, right? It's the here and now, and it's Cheeto Vera's time, and he's gonna continue to skyrocket. He's really hitting his prime. He hits like a truck. He's patient. Really, really good in 5-round fights, man. Like he's gonna be real trouble. The only thing that I think he might run into is that if he ever finds himself not in main events, he might be starting too slow and he might be in a bad spot. But again, that's something that like he'll be able to take care of on his own. So yeah, I see really big things on the horizon for Cheeto Vera. I don't know exactly who they're going to give him next, but I don't want to dive too far into it because this is primarily a 278 preview show. And so, yeah, Cheeto Vera got a really awesome win. Knocked Dominic Cruz down in every round and got the head kick knockout in the 4th round. And congratulations to him. It was an awesome night of fights, though, man. There were a bunch of really good fights here. Nate Landwehr in the co-main fighting David Onama. It's an insane fight. David Onama seemed like the bigger guy, definitely had the longer reach, definitely seemed like the more athletic dude, definitely won the 1st round. But then everything after that was pure Landwehr. He was just wearing on him and pushing him against the cage and smothering him and throwing lots of volume. There was just nowhere for Onama to go at all. And like once he started to gas, Landwehr just put it on him. And he's got like some really fun, like in the ring charisma that I really like. He's like agging on the fight. I'm a fan. He was a champion in another organization. I can't remember the name of the other organization, but I do know that he was a belt holder in the organization before he came to the UFC. And I see big things on the horizon for him, man. It was a really, really fun fight, and I can't imagine that the brass isn't gonna slide him fun fights. I mean, he's like a fight of the night type of guy every time he goes in there, as far as I can tell. Yasmin Yaragwai got the decision win over Yasmin Lucindo. At the end of the day, she has had the crispier boxing, right? Like she was throwing shots straight down the middle. And so when they were getting into the big wild exchanges, she was landing cleaner and therefore to greater effect. And she was spending less energy throwing tight punches down the middle than her opponent was throwing big looping punches around the outside. So she looked really, really good. I can't wait to see what they're going to wind up doing with her moving forward. Azamat Mirzakhanov got the TKO over Devin Clark in the 3rd round. Just overwhelming performance. He's good. The guy's really, really good. You won't catch me betting against him moving forward at all. I mean, he managed to keep his undefeated track. He's now 12-0. Devin Clark's dad was like getting so crunk between the 2nd and 3rd round, and it had even had me inspired. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough to overcome the tidal wave that is Azamat Mirzakhanov. And so, like I said, he got the TKO finish about 1 minute and 20 seconds into the 3rd round, preserves his undefeated status, and keeps moving up the ranks. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with him. Gerald Meerschaert got a really nice submission victory in the 3rd round over Bruno Silva. Frankly, he hit him real hard, and I thought that it was going to be a knockout or a TKO, but Bruno managed to tuck his head and get in close to Gerald Meerschaert. But at the end of the day, that's not the guy to do that to. He put him in a guillotine and made him tap. It was a really impressive performance. I was really, 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 really pleased. Oh, man, and even the prelims were good on this one. This was a really good fight card, guys. Angela Hill, big fan of Angela Hill. She got the victory, 3-round decision. She looked great over Lupita Godinez. Her record's salty, right? She's 14-12, but, at this point, I think she's kind of agreed to the role of just being somebody who goes in there and fights a lot and fights anybody and puts on exciting performances. And even by her own measure, I think she's referred to herself as like the Cowboy Cerrone of the women's divisions. And so I can see that, right? Going in there, fighting a bunch, and just having a blast doing what she does. Yeah, I was really, really happy for her. She got a nice payday, too. I believe she actually made more than Dominic Cruz, which is wild. But, Angela Hill's been around for a long time. Also, Angela Hill is the first ever Black American female to fight in the UFC. And, yeah, that's a little bit of a shock to me because, black girls are typically real athletic. And you'd think they'd be ready to get in there and whoop some ass with that athleticism, but no, you don't see it too much. But props to Angela Hill for being an outlier and for clearing the way for girls in the future who want to follow suit. So yeah, I'm really happy for her, man. Good win. Moving forward, I mean, they're going to give her fights. She's going to have fights. There's never a shortage of fights for Angela Hill. There was a heavyweight fight between Martine Boudet and a cat named Bresky. And I thought that Bresky won, man. I mean, Bresky landed more shots outright everywhere. And on top of him having landed more shots, it seemed as though his punches were landing to greater effect, right? The only thing that Martine really had going for him is that he was like being aggressive and like moving forward the whole time. But I don't understand how that's enough to get him the win. I've even heard like Big John McCarthy explain the rules and like how the like hierarchy of judging is supposed to work. And if I'm not mistaken, like you wouldn't need to consider effective striking and damage done if someone gets knocked out, right? And like that same energy goes through the rest of this, right? Where like you don't need to consider aggressiveness or octagon control whenever someone had a distinct advantage in the effective striking and damage done department. You feel me? Like no one got knocked out, and so we're looking at who did the more damage and who had the most effective striking, and that was clearly Bresky, right? And if there wasn't like a clear victor whenever you go to that variable, then you would take into consideration the next variable, which is aggression and octagon control. And so I don't understand it. And even like DC and Michael Bisping were both saying that they didn't quite understand it either. And so it's just frustrating whenever like these refs, or excuse me, these judges are out here doing stuff that like no one really understands. Like, I mean, DC and Michael Bisping are both world champions in mixed martial arts, and they're basically having to be like, well, we don't know how it's going to get judged. And that's ridiculous. I mean, these guys literally have more experience in there than those judges. Like, they have the seasoned experience, and it's just wild to me that these guys are not nailing it that regularly, in my opinion, right? I'm not. Maybe they have more training than me. Maybe they literally know better than me. But I mean, I like to think I'm a pretty smart guy, and I've heard like the breakdown of how this is supposed to work, and I've seen the fights, and like I know how I felt about the fight. It seemed like Bresky won, and it seemed like DC and Michael Bisping both felt the same way, and so. I think they need to change something with how they're doing the judging. I really think that that's something that needs to happen pretty desperately. I don't know if it needs to be like a crowdsourced thing or just like a bigger panel and they take an average, or like what they need to do, man. I know I like what PFL does. PFL does a thing where they have the smart ring, right? Like the octagon itself actually has like a metric that it gives in terms of like how effective they think someone's been. And so that's neato. I really like that. They also show the fan votes. They also show the scorecards of the commentators, and then they show the scorecards of the judges, and they name each judge. And so if it's like the smart octagon picks somebody, the announcers pick somebody, the fans pick somebody, and 2 out of the 3 judges pick somebody, you can see that it's like Judge X has done a really, really bad job. And although I don't think they're doing anything to necessarily maintain accountability beyond putting them on blast like that. I do really like that, and I think that that could be elaborated upon, and it could be made so that like those things are actually considered in the actual final scoring of the thing, so that they can get to better scores, man. Because there's been some fuckery for a long time, and I remember DC saying, I can't wait to make it to the there's like a judging conference coming up, and he's like, I can't wait to make it to that so I can learn how to watch mixed martial arts, and it's like, bro, whenever you've got like a world champion, like one of the best to ever do it in DC, going, I can't wait to go to a judging conference so that I can understand how to even watch mixed martial arts. I mean, the guy, you understand mixed martial arts, you competed in it, you were able to win, like he clearly gets it. There's just a dissonance between the understanding that the fighters and the world champions have and the understanding that the judges have. And that bridge that gap needs to be bridged really desperately, because, like there are people who are betting on this shit, and there are people like, there's like money on, like there are guys in there fighting for their literal lives, and that's being fucked with by these judges who are doing a poor job. And so it needs to be addressed very sincerely, and I hope that they do something about it sooner rather than later. But it seems like they're probably never going to do anything about it. Oh, Nina Nunes retired. She got her win. I predicted her to win. Go me. But at the end of the day, I wasn't expecting for her to retire at all. That wasn't what I had picked. But good for her, man. At the end of the day, this sport is not really friendly to people on the way out. Like, people go out on their shield, battered and bruised, right? And she got her a nice win, and she gets to ride off into the sunset, and she gets to focus on training other girls and raising her beautiful family with her beautiful wife, and, ride off into the sunset on a win, dude. I thought that was really cool, and I'm really, really happy for her, and I wish that more people got to go out that way. But at the end of the day, congratulations to Nina on a spectacular, a good career, man. It was a really good career. She deserves every bit of credit that she's ever going to get. I know that I made a video of announcing that she'd retired, and someone was like, this isn't really news, she was a mid-fighter. Bro, fuck you. I'll tell you right now, anybody in the UFC isn't a mid-fighter, bro. You're like a mid-commenter. There are people like these people take ass whoopings in the gym that you've never taken in real life at all, and that's just what they do for fucking practice. And they're in the UFC. Like, everyone in the UFC is exceptional. That's like saying that like someone in the NFL is a bad ball player, something like that. Like, it's just like generally ignorant and disrespectful to say something like that. I mean, maybe you could get away with, well, she's middle of the pack in terms of like her peers in the UFC or whatever, but like, man, let's be real, dude. On the planetary scale, that's one of the baddest humans on the fucking planet. And I don't want to hear about how they're mid. I don't need that type of disrespect. No one needs that, especially whenever you're trying to say something nice about them on their way out. Like, let them have their moment. And if you weren't a fan, keep that shit to yourself, man. Let these people have their moment, because they deserve it. And so Nina Nunes retired, rode off into the sunset, had an awesome career, has a bunch of really great stuff to look forward to, went out on a win, like lots and lots of positives, man. I'm really, really happy for Nina Nunes. Gabriel Benitez, oh, shout out this guy. He liked my video that I made of him. I made a video talking about how he won, and he went and liked it. That made me feel really good. Also, man, shit, last week, Jeff Hands of Steel Neal liked my fucking page. Bro, you're the man. Go you. You're like number 8 welterweight in the world liking my page? That's like some social validation right there. There's only like 179 other ranked fighters in the UFC that I need to follow my page, man. Shit. Setting trends, bro. You can be the first one. You have like a special place in my heart, Jeff Neal. For real. I really, really appreciate you giving it a follow and a like, man. That's badass, bro. Yeah, maybe we get you on the pod sometime. But beyond that, Tyson Nam had a fantastic knockout in the first round, like 3 minutes into the first round, of Ode Osborne. I'm really excited to see what's going to come of Tyson Nam. He's a fun dude. But that's probably enough talking about last week's little fight night. Let's talk about the UFC 278 that's coming up. Oh yeah, let's get over here to it. Marty Usman versus Leon Edwards. Rocky Edwards versus the Nigerian Nightmare. What a fun fight. 7 years rematch in the making. You understand that neither of these guys have lost since they fought 7 years ago? Like, these guys fought 7 years ago. Kamaru Usman got the W, which I went back and rewatched that fight. It's up on YouTube right now as the free fight, which, granted, I have Fight Pass, but like if you don't have Fight Pass, you can definitely watch the fight on YouTube. And it was a good fight. It was a real good fight. Kamaru Usman got the dub, as you'd expect at this point. Listen, it's just a style thing, right? Like, if all things were equal, right? Like, if they both worked with the exact same heart, like, they both put in the exact same amount of work, and they both possess the exact same physical skills, the wrestler and the pressure guy would win that fight 9 times out of 10. I just feel like the wrestling and the pressure base that these guys have is like the proper foundation for being a mixed martial artist, and it translates to more wins in a coin flip situation with the judges. And so I just think that that Marty has the right base with the way that he fights. Just his general demeanor and orientation with how he goes about fighting is going to put him in an advantageous position to get the win. And obviously, we've already seen the fight, too. Like, this isn't rocket science. We've already seen these guys fight, and we've already seen Marty Usman do what Marty Usman does and get the win. They're both incredible, though. They've both been growing. They've both been winning since then. And Rocky's not out of the fight. But if Rocky did it, I would be admittedly shocked. Not like, oh my god, I never saw this coming ever in a million years, but like it's definitely not what I'm picking, right? Like if it's my money on the line, like you're trying to, or your money on the line, I'm saying pick Marty Usman. He's just that guy. He's fantastic. He was really, really good, and then he got with Trevor Whitman, and he started developing his stand-up game and stuff, and now he's like a true terror, right? Like, he can knock you the fuck out on the feet, like, out, like he did to Jorge Masvidal, which no one else has ever done, or, he can wrestle fuck you and, take you into deep water in his world, too, so the guy is as he said, a problem. And, I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be his fight to win against Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards has had a tough go, though, man. He's had, ever since, like, the COVID outbreak, he's had, like, I think, like, 6 fights get canceled, just with people backing out, or him getting injured, or, like, travel stuff happening. It's COVID time. But yeah, he's had a real tough go in terms of just like getting opponents to stick through and like get people signed on the contract and get on the dotted line. And so I'm pumped for him that he's getting his title shot against the guy who beat him last time 7 years ago. I mean, it's like if he wins, bro, it's like storybook shit. So let's go for it. The next fight on the card is Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold. Which, man, Luke Rockhold's been out the game for a while. I thought Luke Rockhold was done. I didn't realize he was going to ever come back. I mean, he ain't won a fight since 2017, bro. It's been 5 years since Luke Rockhold won a fight. And it ain't like that was his last fight either. He got his face blasted by Yoel Romero, and then got his face literally broken by Jan Blachowicz. So, yeah, bro, been a tough go. And I mean, he's like a fight a year. Like 2016, lost to Michael Bisping. 2017, winning against David Branch. Then in 2018, lost to Yoel, and then 2019, lost to Jan. So I mean, he wasn't super active even whenever he was still fighting. And then he takes 3 years off, and I don't know, it just seems sus to me, man. Paulo Costa hits like a Mack truck, like real life hits like a Mack truck. And, obviously Luke Rockhold has proven to be a little chinny. And so if it's my money on the line, if I'm the one making the pick, I'm picking Paulo Costa. And if I'm being real ballsy, I'm picking Paulo Costa by knockout. Because it's just a matter of a guy who's got a suspect chin versus a guy who's got confirmed boomstick hands. And so that's just like the obvious pick in my world in terms of how things line up. But frankly, if Luke Rockhold were to be able to stay on the outside and kickbox him and point fight him for 3 rounds and win, I wouldn't be terribly shocked. And also, if Paulo Costa started to get a little tired halfway through the fight and Luke Rockhold drug him to the ground and beat on him and choked him, I wouldn't be terribly surprised by that either. Right? Like these are all like significantly realistic options. But if I'm having to gamble on one, if I'm having to pick one, right, it's going to be Paulo Costa for the win by knockout. That's what I think. Just too much rust. Already had a suspect chin before he put all that rust on him. You have a suspect chin, then you got a bunch of ring rust on top of that. It's just a recipe for disaster. If I'm just being frank, doesn't sound the best to pun. Which we could do, man. I think we should do puns picks. How would that be? I already do my little pick videos. So I think if puns picks, that could be fun. We'll see. You guys will see. But then the next one we have is Jose Aldo versus Merab Dvalishvili. Dvalishvili. That's an interesting name. I have a tough time with some of these Russian names, but I think even the Russian people have trouble with the Russian names. Shit. Let's look at these stats real quick. So I mean, if I'm having to pick right now, I probably got to pick Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo's my dude. I think he's one of the GOATs of the division ever. And then he dropped down a division, and now he's got like extra power, right? We're talking beat Rob Font, beat Pedro Munoz, beat Chito Vera. I mean, damn. Then he lost to Peter Yan, which, I mean, this is going backwards, right? And then he lost to Marlon Moraes, but that Marlon Moraes fight was sus. I mean, there's a reason why he lost to Marlon and then immediately fought Peter Yan for the vacant bantamweight championship after a loss. Like, yeah, how many times have you seen a guy take an L and then immediately turn around and fight for the belt? Not many. And it's whenever Jose Aldo beats Marlon Moraes and the judges just get it wrong. And again, this comes down to judges getting it wrong, bro. Like, whenever you're so wrong about it that even the UFC is like, fuck it. We're treating it like he won. He's going to the championship fight after this because they did that bad a job. Bro, you're fucking with people's money and livelihoods and shit. People are gambling on this shit. People are literally fighting for their life in there. Like, bruh, what are you doing? What are y'all thinking? We got to do something about it. We got to do something about it for real. Let's see what Merab is dealing with, though. I mean, damn, Merab's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 wins in a row, all in the UFC. Damn. He did take 2 losses in a row the moment that he got into the UFC. He lost to Frankie Sainz and Ricky Simone, but then he went on a tear. And his most recent wins are John Dodson, Cody Stamann, and Marlon Moraes, who actually beat old Jose Aldo. But he retired. He retired Marlon Moraes. Okay. I mean, damn, that's a really impressive resume with a performance of the night whenever he took out Marlon Moraes TKO. It's a close one, man. This one could really go either way, but if I'm having to gamble on it, I'm gambling on Jose Aldo. I think that Jose Aldo's got it, personally, just with how good he's looked. At bantamweight, it's really hard for me to pick against him. The next fight is Wu Yanan versus Lucy Padalova. And like, Lucy Padalova's like been fighting in the Czech Republic in like octagon combat. And Wu is like 3 fights down in a row. About to take her 4th loss in a row. Huh. That's on the main card? Huh. Yeah, 3 losses in a row. And this girl, she's 5-1 in her last 6, but they're all in octagon combat out of the Czech Republic. But she was in the UFC before that. But she'd taken 4 straight L's in the UFC between 2018 and 2020. Damn, this girl's fought 6 times in the last 2 years? Oh shit, this girl's staying busy. She's coming in on a couple W's. She's getting her shot at the UFC again. Oh, I know who to pick. It's this girl. Yeah. Lucy Pudilova. That's the girl in the Wu Yanan versus in the how would I say that? The Yanan versus Pudilova fight. I got Lucy Pudilova for sure. Tyson Pedro and Harry Hunsucker. This will be a fun fight. Harry Hunsucker is like a big dude, punches real hard, and Tyson Pedro is a dog. 8-3 or 7-5. I'm a big Tyson Pedro fan. I'm gonna have to pick Tyson Pedro, even if it's just an emotional pick because I like him. Whatever, man. That's where we're gonna go with that. That's what makes my heart sing is picking Tyson Pedro, and I'm here to feel good. So let's do it. I can't believe they got these girls on this main card. I guess they really want female representation on the main card, which I ain't mad at. So it's on the prelims. Oh, what? Oh, they're tripping putting them girls on the main card and letting these 2 dudes fight. Check us out. They got Marcin Tybura and Alexander Romanov fighting. And Marcin Tybura is like a perennial heavyweight, and Alexander Romanov's an undefeated prospect. This right here is a fun fight. That's a fun fight. I can't imagine they felt like this should be on the prelims, and a girl who wasn't in the UFC 6 weeks ago, and a girl who's taken 3 straight losses. That's what you want to put on the main card? For real? What can you even say? Leonardo Santos versus Jared Gordon. That's a fun fight. Sean Woodson versus Louis Sadaka. That's a fun fight. Then Sean Woodson, isn't he a contender series guy? I don't have my notes on him right now. I wasn't necessarily intending on getting this far down the card, but the fucking girls on the main card and Marcin Tybura and Alexander Romanov on the prelims fucking threw my brain for a loop. So now I'm just kind of shitting my way through this. Yeah, I believe Sean Woodson's a contender series guy. Then we got Miranda Maverick versus Shanna Young. I mean, you're picking Miranda Maverick on that one, with her being the new girl up on the come up, you know. Nothing really worth talking about in the early prelims. I mean, obviously, I say that. All these guys are exceptional fighters, and they're all worth talking about. The issue is that I don't know enough about them to speak on it without just speaking from a position of ignorance, and so I choose not to speak from a position of ignorance. I'm sorry, guys. I wish I had more time to study and be up on top of everything so I could know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about y'all. I mean, AJ Fletcher versus Angie Lusa. Welterweight fight. Amir Albazi versus Francisco Figueiredo at flyweight. I mean, Francisco Figueiredo is Davison's brother, which I didn't think he looked too crazily good in his last outing that I saw him in. Quilling Aori versus Jay Perrin in a bantamweight fight, and a flyweight fight between Daniel Da Silva and Victor Altamirano. Let's see. Victor Altamirano. So those are the guys. They at least get their names said on the podcast, right? They deserve it. They're fighting on a big card. It's a numbered UFC event. You guys are obviously like world-class athletes and fighters fighting on a numbered UFC event. I just don't know enough about y'all to give you a big long talk up. I can't give you a talk up if I don't know anything about you. So make a name for yourself. I'll be watching these early prelims. Send someone to fucking space, and I guarantee I talk about you. I promise. That's how you make a name for yourself. Go out there and do the thing. let's see. What else we got going on in the world of sports, real quick? Well, here we go. I got my notes over here. Oh, shit. Okay, yeah, so there's been a few people retired. Yeah, Uriah Hall retired. Yeah, Uriah Hall retired. They had a lot of fun fights in the UFC. I really enjoyed watching him fight a bunch. And I just think that he kind of had some like unfair expectations thrust upon him. No wrongdoing on his end. He just was on the Ultimate Fighter and hit someone with a spinning heel kick and literally like sent a guy to space and gave him a fucking seizure. And you know, Dana White was like saying that he was like the next Anderson Silva type shit. And you know, whenever you get called the next Anderson Silva, I don't know if there's really ever any living up to that. And so he just kind of fell short of the bar that I feel like some people had to set for him in their minds. And I feel like his major battle was always in the mind. I mean, right? Because what would be the differentiator? He had all the physical tools that you could ever ask for, right? Like he was a incredibly blessed athlete. And so, you know, it all came down to the mental game for him. And I wish I could see more Uriah Hall. You know, at least all of his fights live on the Fight Pass, and I'll be able to watch them. All of them. His UFC fights live on the Fight Pass, and I'll be able to watch them. But congratulations, Uriah Hall, on an incredible career. Really, really, really. I've personally enjoyed the fights from Uriah Hall a whole bunch. And I hope him nothing but, you know, happiness and fulfillment outside of the octagon moving forward. Whatever he's into, hopefully he chases it down and does it. Rory McDonald, the Red King, retired as well. He was a guy who bounced around. He went from the UFC to Bellator to PFL. And he's another guy who like had unfair expectations thrust upon him, right? He was the guy who was like coming out of Canada, right, whenever GSP was retiring, and I think that people were like hoping that he would be the one to like replace GSP as like the national treasure in combat sports for Canada. And I mean, he effectively filled that role pretty good, but he never turned out to be like a GOAT like GSP. He had some amazing fights though. Both the fights with Robbie Lawler were incredible. He beat the brakes off Nate Diaz back in the day. People don't remember that. And so, man, a truly, like, I mean, he was champion in Bellator, a truly spectacular career. He's another guy who I, like, sincerely appreciate, man. I was thoroughly entertained at several points throughout my life by the work that Rory put in. And I hope that he knows that I sincerely appreciate him. And everybody else appreciates him. And, you know, all these people, Nina, Uriah, and Rory, all these guys who retired, if you're listening, go give those guys some love on social media, right? Because it's always a kind of precarious time whenever you walk away from something that you love and that you've been doing for a long time. And I'm certain that any bit of like positivity or support would be like incredibly appreciated on there. And so I'd highly recommend going and being sweet and you know, helping these people on in their lives, because at the end of the day, they're not just entertainers, they're not just fighters. Like, they're real people. They're trying to get through their life just like we are, and so let's all be kind and get each other through it. What else do we have going on here? Yuri Prochazna and Glover Teixeira are set, or they're not set, but they're in talks for a rematch at UFC 282. And take my money, right? It's going to be a great fight. If I had to gamble, it's going to go Yuri's way again. I think that I saw a stat one time that said, like, I don't remember the exact stat, but it was like an overwhelming percentage of the time, whenever there's a fight where the younger man wins, and they do a rematch, the younger man wins in a more decisive fashion in the rematch. So that's what I think is going to happen. Is I think that Yuri's going to come back and win in an even more decisive fashion over Glover Teixeira in the next one. But with that being said, man, Glover hurt Yuri several times, and if Glover catches him with the right punch, it could be over. And if Glover gets on top of him, it could be a wrap. So yeah, that's where we're at on that one. We've got Jack Hermanson versus Derek Brunson being targeted for December 3rd. Which is going to be a potentially great fight. I don't really know how to feel about Jack Hermanson these days. He used to be like a forward pressure, dirty boxing, grappling, push you against the cage type. Almost reminded me of like Randy Couture back in the day, except with like a better at range striking. But like he would always like Greco-Roman wrestling, put guys against the cage, hang on them, drag on them, and hit them with the dirty boxing, and maybe get them on their back. But it was always a scrappy fight with him. But in his last couple fights, he's been kind of sitting back, moving backwards, and like counterpunching with his kickboxing. So I don't know which version of Jack Hermanson we're going to get, but I do feel like I understand which version of Derek Brunson we're going to get. He's going to be charging forward, trying to whoop that ass, doing what Derek Brunson does. And so if anybody can pull the dog back out of Jack Hermanson, it's definitely going to be Derek Brunson. And I think it's going to be a really fun fight. Hopefully they're able to get that finalized. Other stuff that's going on. Jake Paul is trolling Dana White, as always, for the over the fighter pay stuff. Yeah, this is par for the course at this point. They're always exchanging online. If you guys want to see exactly what was said, y'all can go hop on either of their Twitter feeds, and I'm certain you'll be able to see where they're back and forth and being assholes. But I do really love that Jake Paul, I'm slowly turning into a Jake Paul fan, to be really honest. I love that Jake Paul is always going to bat for fair fighter pay and things like health care for the fighters and stuff, and like anything that puts the fighters forward, I'm going to be a big proponent of. I wish that the fighters would unionize, but that's neither here nor there. It appears as though there's a little beef brewing between DC and Darren Till. Basically, Darren Till said that he'd love to do a fight, this and that, but that he doesn't want DC broadcasting because DC is always basically favorable towards the people that are in his camp or that he's somehow associated with. And DC, of course, responds and has like I expect better out of you, etc., etc. And if anything, the people in my camp don't like me commentating their fights because I overcompensate and I lean against them, and they don't like hearing me lean against them mid-commentation whenever they go back and rewatch their fights. So it's like Darren Till says that he's over here playing favorites, and the people that Darren Till says he's playing favorites with are saying that no, he doesn't play favorites, and actually he does the opposite. We really don't like it. So, I don't know. I mean, I think that DC can definitely be a little... He's an emotional guy, He wears his heart on his sleeve, and whenever he has an association with somebody, he cares for them and he wants to see them do well. And when that doesn't happen, he's sad, or frustrated or whatever, and he shows that. And maybe it's not like true objectivity in his commentary, but like, bro, we like DC because he provides amazing commentary and awesome in-depth looks into the grappling and stuff. And he's a real human being who has emotions, and we get to see that. And if you want a robot to do your announcing, then we can go get Announcitron, and it can just be cold mechanical ones and zeros for your ass all you want. But me, personally, I'm gonna take DC. DC's a great guy, world champion, one of the GOATs, and it's fun. It's fun whenever he's commentating. So cool. That's where I'm at. What else is going on? Oh. Holy shit. How in the fuck did they pull this off? We got MVP Michael Venom Page and Mike Perry bare knuckle boxing. What world are we living in where bare knuckle boxing is like a thing to the point where like a prominent figure in one of the 3 largest promotions in the world is going to take time away from Bellator so that he can go and fight bare knuckle against Mike Perry of all people? Like, the fuck is going on? How did they make this happen? How did, dudes from bare knuckle, get at me. How did you make this happen? How did you swing this? Did you just fucking hit up MVP and be like, hey man, you want to fucking fight someone in bare knuckle? What? How did this happen? Really, how did this happen? And Scott Coker and them, how y'all y'all can't give MVP enough money for him to just exclusively fight in Bellator? Y'all are literally getting outbid by bare knuckle? What is going on? I don't understand it. I don't understand why Michael Venom Page is fighting Mike Perry in bare knuckle boxing. I just don't get it. I'm here for it. I love the fight. It's going to be a hell of a fight. They're going to knock... I mean, bro, if MVP gets hit by Mike Perry with no gloves on, it's going to be the end of his world. But also, Mike Perry is probably going to have a hard time doing that. So it's going to be like an interesting fight. Like, make no mistake, it's going to be a really interesting fight. I just can't believe they managed to do it. And the last thing that I want to ask everybody who's listening is, who do you think is better, Kamaru or GSP? Who's the real GOAT? In my opinion, it's Kamaru. I feel like if you were like put them right next to one another, right? Kamaru is the bigger guy with the longer reach and is the more explosive athlete. And I feel like GSP, it would be jab for jab, right? They'd be jabbing at one another, and Kamaru's going to have the reach, right? And so that's going to give him the advantage there. And I fucking frankly believe that he's stronger than GSP. Like, look at the size of Kamaru Usman. Like, it's a different breed of cat, whole different breed of dude. And also I believe, this is my heart speaking, I believe that if you take a prime GSP and a prime Kamaru Usman, lock them in a cage, Kamaru Usman beats that ass. And if, like, all else fails and you can't figure out who the actual GOAT is, it comes down to who wins in a fist fight between them two in their primes, in my world, right? And I really do believe that that's Kamaru territory right there. Man, I can't wait. I hope that one day we can, like, get an effective representation of what that would really look like. I would pay really good money to see a convincing replication of them two fighting in their primes. But at any rate, Armchair Army, it's been a really fantastic time. I really appreciate y'all sticking with me and hearing my bullshit about what I have going on outside of this stuff, and forgiving me, for just being part of the Armchair, or for being part of the Armchair Army, for real. You guys are badass. I really appreciate every single one of y'all, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.